Trump's new pick for SEC Commissioner Paul Atkins is great news for one altcoin in particular. Not only does this coin look great in the charts, it's being held by BlackRock in an almost secretive manner and was Morgan Stanley's first crypto investment ever. And the big banks don't want you to know they love this project. That altcoin I'm talking about is ONDO. Now, before we get into it, let's back up a second. Does Paul Atkins actually have any crypto connections? Well, folks, the answer is yes. And Paul Atkins' crypto connection starts with Securitize. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Securitize is a business that creates a platform to raise money for digital tokens. Now, they also have a broker-dealer that sells tokenized shares in private companies. Now, private companies can get very lucrative. SpaceX, for example, is worth over $300 billion. So when you see private, doesn't necessarily mean small. Now, Securitize has over 3,000 clients with a combined 1.2 million investors. So their customer base is millionaires and billionaires. We're talking about major money, not a million people that are buying a cup of coffee. We're talking about a million people with major money to invest. And the reason why they're pretty comfortable investing with Securitize, they are regulated by the SEC and FINRA, and not only that, authorized by the Spanish government. Now, they have raised over $100 million, and like I said earlier, it was Morgan Stanley's first dedicated investment in crypto. But what's the Paul Atkins angle with Securitize? How does it all kind of tie up together, folks? Well, you can see here, leading the tokenization of real-world assets. But if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the team, you'll see the board of directors, and then you're going to see the advisory board. And who do we see is the number 2 spot in the advisory board but Paul Atkins, the former SEC former commissioner, who's expected to be appointed shortly after Trump is sworn in. Now, when we go to Securitize, you can see they're working with BlackRock. BlackRock launches its first tokenized fund, BUIDL, and they're using Securitize. And when we go to ONDO's page, building on BUIDL, so we're seeing a lot of connection here between BUIDL, Securitize, and BlackRock. And when we go to RWA.xyz, this is showing real-world assets tokenized on-chain. We can see ONDO, one of the top players, but when you see what number 1 is, that's actually a stable coin, so you can invest in Hashnote and make any kind of money. You can invest $1, and guess what? You're going to pull out $1. But ONDO, folks, there is a lot of opportunity here. Now, some of you might be wondering, though, I've heard a lot of bad FUD about ONDO when it comes to their token unlocks. Don't they have a giant token unlock? Well, they do have a large unlock in January, but Josh did a pretty good job breaking this down, and I found some resources on this. They have an unlock schedule, and their unlocks are going to begin January 18th, 2025. But here's where it gets bullish. It's going to be distributed linearly over 3 years until 2028. That means a small portion is unlocked monthly, minimizing the impact on price. Now, the majority is allocated to the treasury, which is going to help support development and growth. But what about Solana? Solana also had the same issue last cycle. Solana had significant unlocks. They had a huge unlock in January 2021, with the majority of the tokens released at once, unlike ONDO, which is releasing a small amount at a time. But despite this, Solana skyrocketed from $3 in January 2021 to $280 by November of that year. And a large part of Solana's success was the Solana treasury, which helped fund the ecosystem development. So I'm seeing a lot of similarities between ONDO and Solana of last cycle. But let's talk a little bit more about the Paul Atkins connection, and then we're going to go into the charts, because the charts is the most bullish thing when it comes to ONDO here. Here's setting the stage for ONDO tokenization. You can see how it's all connected. You know, he's the new SEC chair, served as senior advisor for Securitize, but also was on the SEC, and SEC granted Securitize issuance. And we're seeing a lot of connections between ONDO, BlackRock, and Securitize as well. So this is all interconnected, folks. Now, if we read above my head, the TLDR, Securitize is the core orchestrator here. A couple of quick bullet points. Number 1, they're tokenizing real-world assets. They're working with BlackRock, the largest real-world asset manager. They utilize Securitize infrastructure, which is both SEC approved and utilized by BlackRock for BUIDL, and Paul Atkins, both the new incoming SEC chair and strategic advisor to Securitize. So folks, put the pieces together. But now let's talk charts. I know that's the fun start. Now, before we get into the charts, we got to talk about the whale activity here. If you don't know, Bitcoin had a huge dip during this week. And in case you didn't remember, and in case you didn't know, Bitcoin had a huge dip yesterday, a giant flash crash, and a lot of altcoins had major losses. But a whale was on the sidelines when it comes to ONDO. They created a new wallet 11 hours ago and spent $17 million to buy 11 million ONDO at an average price of $1.50. So folks, there's a whale on the sidelines waiting to gobble up all the cheap ONDO that the paper hands were willing to sell. Let's go into the charts. This is where it's going to get very exciting. Now, I'm going to go ahead and zoom up a little bit so I'm not blocking anything important. I noticed we're seeing a little bit of a rounding bottom here. This is the 4-hour chart. You could also see it on the daily here, but I feel like we went too high too quickly. This was a little too violent. This was a little too sudden, so we needed a little bit of a pullback here. But let's talk about the current price action. Now, I want to zoom in on the 4 hours specifically, and we're going to use some horizontal rays here to kind of point some things out. Now, when I stretch this out, you'll see we found the very top of the candle bodies and we see the tops of the wicks. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the horizontal ray. We're gonna make 2 rays here, one catching the top of the candle bodies and then one catching the tops of the wicks here. And then when we zoom into the current price action, you're gonna notice a lot of interesting price action, folks. Now, one, you can see the candle body down. Now, number one, you can see the candle body found support at the top end of the line, and you can see we're kind of cascading around in this point of control. And so I think anywhere near this range right here is a good buying opportunity for ONDO. If Bitcoin crashes, everything's going to fall below some key support here. But to me, this is a great opportunity. So folks, I would not sleep on ONDO. It is a token that is connected to the incoming SEC chair. It is a token that is connected to BlackRock, the world's most powerful company, according to many. And it's a token that the whales love buying on the dips. So I wouldn't sleep on ONDO. That's all I got, and I'll see you and your real world assets at the top.